There is no more powerful tool to entertain, to influence, and to persuade than what I'm about to share with you today. What's up, everyone? So, today, I want to just ask you this. Have you ever told someone that they should do something? You go up to someone and either you wanted to give advice or you wanted to ask someone to do something and you just say, hey, you should do this. And how do people respond if they're a bit hesitant? Like if you give them advice, generally people are like, yeah, you know what? Nah, they don't really kind of follow through. And so what if you could influence people more powerfully without that rejection, without that people feeling terrible, right? Or without having to feel rejected and with getting better results and having your ideas more widely accepted? Would that be something useful? Okay, well, that's what we're going to be covering today. So with that, I want to welcome you to another episode of Hypnotic Storytelling. And today, we are going to be talking about why stories are so powerful, how stories can make a massive difference in your communication, how stories can make a massive difference in your influence, in your charm, in your charisma. So let's go through this right now. Now, for those of you that have met my wife, she's really into a machine called the Thermomix. And she went somewhere one day and someone had told her about this machine that they had. And this machine kind of does everything, right? Like it would make ice cream. It has like this iPad where it weighs the food, it mixes the food, it tells you what speeds to mix, it cooks rice, it makes ice cream, it cleans itself, it does so many different things. And it's one machine that does everything, right? It replaces a number of other machines. And that's the same with a story. A story is one tool that replaces a number of other tools. So it can replace a sales pitch. It can replace it, and trying to entertain people. It can replace so many different things. So stories is like a machine that does it all. And I did things the wrong way. I did things the hard way. When I first started going live every single day over this last over a year, I would come out and I'd just start sharing information. I was doing things the hard way. I was trying to explain to people, trying to tell people like why what I'm sharing is amazing. And I would go and I'd pay crazy money to learn some courses, and then I'd come and share with people for free. And I had paid like crazy money, but people were just not interested. And I kept thinking, is there something I'm doing wrong? Is there something I'm doing wrong? And then one day I was listening to a speaker called Russell Brunson. He has ClickFunnels, and he shares with people how to teach, how to share information. And he says that he was making the same mistake. And then someone told him that you need to use a story. Tell people a story of how you struggled, how you learned or earned the information. And it all made sense to me. In fact, everyone that I had learned from was telling a story. And then I started looking and I started seeing it everywhere. Even successful businesses, when they do marketing, what are they doing? Marketing ads, the ads that we remember, they tell stories. Businesses tell stories. The greatest TED Talks, that even though they have great scientific research behind it and data, the best TED Talks tell stories. Everybody that has great information that gets it across very well has told a story. Every amazing salesperson tells a story. And so I started seeing it everywhere. I started getting all these New York Times best-selling books in order to read them about how to tell powerful stories. And what I learned is facts tell, facts tell, but stories sell. Facts tell, but stories sell. I got a spelling mistake on that one. Facts tell, but stories sell. Okay, and think of it this way: like in your life, your friends, they will tell you a story. You want to hear stories because when your friends tell you a story, or you tell your friends stories. When you're sort of like, oh man, you won't believe what just happened to me today. You're telling a story. That's a story. We are hardwired as human beings to tell stories. So I'm going to share with you a couple of reasons why stories are so powerful. So why stories are so powerful. So let's get in. Number one. We are raised on stories. Like when you're growing up, let me ask you something. Like if you have kids, or when you were growing up, did you look up at your parents? It's bedtime. You like while you're growing up, you look up at your parents. You say, "Mom, Dad, can you read me a bedtime PowerPoint presentation?" Nobody does that, right? So we are raised on stories. We have been hardwired from when we were kids to love stories, to want stories. So we are raised on stories. It is part of human nature to want stories. We spend our money on stories. Like there are $90 billion that have been spent on movies, okay, every year. $90 billion and $90 billion on games as well. We love stories. We spend our money on stories. Our excess money, we will spend it to hear a story. We also spend our free time on stories. They average the person spends about 30 hours a week watching TV. Okay, I'm not too sure if YouTube kind of falls into that, but basically 30 hours a week are spent watching TV. And so we spend our time on it. We spend our money on it. No one's forcing us to do this, by the way. We choose. We choose, to spend our money on stories. We choose to spend our time on stories. So if you are going to tell a story, people are going to be, they're getting it free. They want it, right? We are trained to be entertained by stories. Like if someone came to you and said, listen, I want to give you a sales pitch, or I want to educate you. No one's like, people are going to be like, oh. But if you just went, hey, oh my God, I got to tell you this story. You'll find this hilarious. You won't believe what happened to me. Something like that. Then you're just like, huh? Like we're trained. I didn't even tell you what the story is. And you just like, some people will be like, what's going on? So we are trained to be entertained by stories. And it prepares our brain to cooperate. Now, let's get into some science, some chemistry, right? There are studies that have been done that show when we tell a story, it produces oxytocin in our brain. Oxytocin, it just means that we have become a little bit more, we have a little bit more empathy and cooperation. So we are more likely, chemically, we are more likely to have empathy and cooperation when we tell a story. So if you want to if facts tell and stories sell, okay, this is why facts tell, stories sell. You are more likely to persuade using a story. Remember, facts tell, stories sell. Now, one of the other reasons that stories are so powerful is that stories are a co-creation process. What do I mean by that? So, for example, if I say, oh my God, like I was at this beautiful beach and it was like the weather was perfect, sand was so soft, and like you could just hear and smell nature all around. What are you building in your mind? You are building the scene, right? Your mind is going, okay, let me just put a beach here. Like you have to visualize it. So it is a co-creation process. I'm giving you bits of information. Your mind is actively working at something. It's creating, it's building the scene. So that's why it's also a little hypnotic, but it's building a scene. So stories are a co-creation process. And I forgot to go through my little thing.
And
So
here's number 7.
so there's no difference between something that your brain vividly imagines and something that is absolutely real. So, for example, I love to do this exercise, and you can probably do it as well. Just take it. Imagine taking a lemon and then cutting that lemon in half, and then just take one half of the lemon and look at it, and really look at it, and just start to notice the pulp. Perhaps you notice a bit of moisture. Did we cut a seed in half, or are there no seeds over there? Look at how the color of the lemon on the outside, and then bring it up to just smell it, and then take a bite. Take a bite of that lemon. Now, if you've done the exercise as I'm talking, or you probably have your mouth salivating. Now, there's no lemon there, but why is your mouth salivating? Because your brain has it doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. So when we tell a story, we take people on a process of really imagining, of vividly imagining something. So, and that's very powerful.
Number 8.
And so number 8, first of all, before I get to number 8, this is a great a quote from Nancy Duarte, who's a TEDx, a TED speaker. And she says, "Great stories cause our palms to sweat, our hearts to race, and our eyes to dilate." And that just shows you that there's no difference between a story that is vividly imagined and what is real. So, number 8, we put ourselves in the story. So this is also why stories are so powerful, because when you hear a story, you start to put yourself in the protagonist, the main character's shoes, and you ask yourself the question a lot, what would I do? So to an extent, your brain is active and you're asking yourself the right questions to problem solve while you're kind of getting the solution. And in this sense, it is very influential, because you are asking questions and putting yourself in that person's shoes. So imagining some of the challenges without having to go through some of the challenges. So you get the learnings without having to go through the hardship at times. So we put ourselves in the story. So that's number 8.
Is number 9.
Now, number 9 is that stories beat statistics. So there's a book called Made to Stick, and the author did an experiment. He found that when they did a talk, at the end of the talk, 63% of people remembered the stories, but only 5% of people remembered the facts, right? They remembered the numbers. Remember what I said earlier. Facts tell, but stories sell. And so 63% of people remembered the story, but only 5% remember the fact. So if you want to be more memorable using a story, even when you have facts, you can use the story to drive home your facts. So so that's the number 9. And then let's go to
Number 10.
Stories allow you to tap into emotion. So what do I mean by like emotion plus information equals retention? So if you just get information on its own, you're not going to remember because you don't care. When we create emotion, when you take someone through an emotional journey, they are more likely to remember any bit of information. Now think of it in your life. If you've got a job, do you remember the day that you got the job? You had a bit of information, but because there was emotion attached, because you were emotionally connected to that bit of information, you remember. You remember where you were. You remember perhaps what happened that day, or what happened how you reacted when you got that bit of information. So emotion and information equals retention. Okay, emotion plus information equals retention. So that's number 10.
11. 11.
Stories put a face on the issue. So what do I mean by this? People care about other people. We don't care about products. We don't care about, hold up, I'm a little bit out of focus here. Okay, coming back. Okay, let's just do this. Okay, stories put a face on the issue. People care about people. They don't care about products. They don't care about processes. If you just sort of say, you know what, you should try this ABC process, nobody cares. But if you just sort of say, you know what, Vanessa was struggling. She was trying everything, and she tried this and she failed and she went home crying. And then one day she discovered this kind of process, and then she tried out the process. And now today she is, succeeding at work and doing all these things. Then all of a sudden we will care more because it's tapped into a bit of an emotion, but we care about people. We don't care about the process. The people understanding about the person will help sell the process. Remember, facts tell, but stories sell. So stories put a face to the issue. And that's number 11. Now number
12. Number 12.
Stories connect us. Like since the beginning of time, people have come together around campfires, in cave places, in whatever, to tell stories. It is the way that we are social. It is the way that has brought us together. In fact, think of it this way. You and your friends, what do? You tell each other stories. You and your family, you tell each other stories. We are hardwired to connection with storytelling. So if you are looking to connect with people, tell stories. What better way to get information across while building rapport than a story? So stories connect us since the beginning of time.
Number 13. Number 13.
Now, stories also humanize us. What does that mean? Well, when you tell a story, you share imperfections, you share the struggles that someone has faced, you share the mistakes, and people like that. Like people want, this sort of redemption from imperfection, like to go from bad to good, because people identify with the struggles. They have doubts on whether they can be amazing. So a story humanizes. It shares the imperfections that we have, the struggles that we have, and it lets people know that you are human. If you're telling a story about yourself, you've started out where they have been. You've started out with some of the challenges, but then you share that there's a way out. So it humanizes us while giving a solution. So you share imperfections. You let people know that, there's more.
Number 14. Number 14.
And stories raise the stakes. Now, when I say stories raise the stakes, when you tell a story, you let people know what would have continued to happen. Like, what is failure like? If I talked about the story of Vanessa, she couldn't sleep, she was crying herself to sleep or whatever. And that kind of shows what is the side of getting this thing that you want to teach people completely wrong. If I'm telling a story of how I discovered stories, I was going live every single day and just sharing facts, and I was struggling and nobody would come, and I wanted to give up, and I would doubt myself, I would doubt my abilities, I would doubt the information that I had. And then on the other side, where now I can make a big impact and I help people who help others right now. So I share the stakes. Like, you raise the stakes, you let people know that this isn't just about a cool little skill, what happens if you fail, but also what happens if you succeed. So you raise the stakes with stories. So that's number 14. And finally, number 15, Stories are a show, not tell. Now, here's the thing. If you're going for an interview, imagine this, right? Imagine you go to an interview and you just sort of say, you know what? The guy says, okay, well, please tell me why I should hire you. And you say, well, I'm the kind of person that goes the extra mile. You've just told a fact, right? Facts tell. But then imagine you say this, like, one of the things I pride myself is on going the extra mile. And I remember one time, I was working in this hotel and a customer came in and they just come in from a flight, but their luggage had been lost and they had a meeting that day and they were really stressed. And without telling the customer, I went and I found a suit rental place. I rented a suit for them. I rented 3 suits for the person without even telling them. I brought it to their room, and the person was so ecstatic, so happy that they had that I helped them get through the meetings over the next couple of days up until their luggage arrived. And then they wrote me this really great 5-star review just saying how I would go over and beyond. Do you see that? Like, this is, instead of saying I go the extra mile, telling a story, you're showing that you go the extra mile. You have tangible proof. You're putting a face on everything. So show, not tell. Hey, what's up, Gina? Yes, completely. It is. It's storytelling is so powerful. So I'm a huge fan. All right. So stories are. So remember, facts tell, stories sell. And with that, I just want to say, look, I've showed you why stories are so powerful, and one of the biggest misconceptions is, oh, I can't tell a story because I'm in a corporate environment or I'm doing a company presentation or something like that. The reality is stories can be used in any context. Any context, it will make a huge difference to you. So stories can be used in any context. Go and use them. They're very, very powerful, whether you're doing a company presentation or whatever. Stories can be used in any context. If you have facts, if you have data, use a story to tell the data. And with that, yeah, facts tell and stories sell. So with that, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all. I will catch you on another episode real soon. Peace out, one love. And remember, facts tell, stories sell. Bye for now.